Hello, I'm Brigantia Blackbird of the Blackbird Grimoire. Welcome to Wicca 303. Today's lesson is going to be focusing upon performing rites of passage. So ceremonies to mark important life events, these have been very customary throughout history, most cultures, most religions. It's only been in the modern era that we've really seen people rejecting this in a big way. And of course, the excuse is, well, that's outmoded, it's old-fashioned, it's too much trouble, and sometimes it costs too much money, or they don't see the point. They do not understand about how it creates this energetic and psychological shift. And so, the attitude of, oh, well, it's just another day, who cares if it's a significant birthday, or if someone got married, it's just another day, they were together before, they'll be together tomorrow, why is this day important, and other things like that. That ignores having any sense of occasion. It ignores the energy that is inherent in these liminal moments of transition, and it really ignores the human need to mark important times. So, what is your role? As a pagan, as a witch or a wizard, specifically as a Wiccan witch or wizard, you can help be part of the effort to bring celebrating rites of passage back into the common consciousness and back into common custom. Not only can you make the choice to perform ceremonies for your own major life events, which I hope you've already begun to do, but you also have the opportunity to act in this priestly role for the benefit of other pagans, which is pretty exciting. So, officiating. It is an honor to be asked to officiate, regardless of what the occasion is. And so, in the event that you are ever asked to perform an important rite of passage, it's sensible to already have general outlines that are pre-prepared, whether it's a baby blessing, hand fasting, hand parting, funerals, coming of age, croning, saging, home blessings, whatever the big moment is. It's good to have something already kind of sketched out that you can work with. And then from there, it's graceful to invite people to add their input, or even to perform a ritual as they would prefer it, or, they may have already written out a ritual that they would like you to do. The graceful thing is, yes, of course, because you are there to aid this transition, not to, impose yourself. And now for some practicalities, of course, you need to know what the event is. You don't want to be all prepared for a hand fasting and discovering that you're there to officiate a funeral. That's not good. You need to know where it will be held, of course, what time, all those things, whatever necessary ritual tools and supplies that you need to bring with you. When it comes to tools, I do recommend you using your own, unless you know the people you're officiating for really, really well, and it's kind of a special exception that you might be using tools that they brought for the occasion. The idea of using someone else's tools, it doesn't sit right. You might feel differently, but that's my personal advice to you. So take it or leave it. Also, discuss whether or not you will be charging a fee for this service. So this gets us into very controversial waters, because there are people, and they have good arguments for it, that say, you should never charge for any kind of magical service of this kind. And I certainly understand why. And personally, for me, I would not charge someone to officiate if they're my personal friend, or if they're my local spiritual community, especially if I'm not driving a million miles away. Yes, if someone asks me to do this, I'm going to show up and I'm going to do that thing. But if you do decide to charge, be reasonable with it. Everything is very expensive these days, and you don't want to be creating an unnecessary burden on people. And even if you're not charging, I think it is graceful for people to offer gas money. Now, I don't think it's graceful to hint around for it. I think that's rude. But I think that it's just as for general information, and just basic pagan etiquette. If someone is coming to officiate your wedding, or bless your house, or do a ritual to introduce your new baby to the community, or whatever it is, I think it is good to offer them gas money, and just to make sure that they are not that they're not being placed to an undue burden, because gas is very expensive. Moving on, so let's talk about the meaning of the occasion. because the reason why that rite of passage is being held, that should be at the absolute forefront. Everything else is of secondary concern. It's all about that moment of transformation, the end of one chapter, the beginning of another. That in between space is what makes it such a magically powerful time. And this process should help the person or the people that the ritual is for feel secure and confident about taking this step. They are ready to shed behind the old, and they're ready to step into the new, and that it should be this momentous thing for them. Now, magical guests, and of course, I'm talking about the unseen guests that we always have at our rituals. Elemental spirits, deities, ancestors, anything of that sort. And so, ask the people that you're doing the ritual for who they would like to invite into that circle, because there's no reason why you can't, and there's no reason why you shouldn't. Now, it may be necessary to be somewhat discreet while doing this, because you could have corporeal human guests who are non-pagans and may not necessarily be cool if we got too far down the rabbit hole into what would be more customary for in all pagan gatherings. So it really is up to the people holding the event just how discreet or how overtly pagan they want the ceremony to be, and this would not be the time or your place to impose your preferences and what you think is the right thing to do in that matter, because it's their event. You are there to provide a service, and it's important to remember the confines of our roles and really the limitations, and that we shouldn't be adding stress to it. We are here to alleviate stress for them, and it should be reflective of their own personal convictions and beliefs and what they're comfortable with, not how we would do something if it was all for ourselves. When it is for ourselves, then we can do it our way. But if we're doing something for someone else, we absolutely have to take them into consideration. It's very wrong not to. Preparation. It is always best to be prepared and ready before performing any ritual. But a rite of passage that's being held on behalf of someone else, particularly if there's going to be other people there, that does require extra care. Conducting a few rehearsals is a good idea. If you are performing a hand fasting, I strongly recommend performing a rehearsal. Things will go so much more smoothly if you do. And it is likely that you will be nervous on the day, so meditate ahead of time. Maybe prepare a flask of tea to have with you if necessary, to steady your nerves. Please do not imbibe any grown-up substances, whether they are herbal or alcoholic. The time to perhaps indulge in that would be after the ceremony, not before, when you really do need to be clear-headed and sharp. Now, for legalities, if you are performing a hand fasting, it will be necessary to ensure that you meet the state's requirements so that the marriage will be legally binding. Now, it is possible to get this kind of certification online, either for a single occasion or more permanently. Sometimes you have to be certified in a different way if you want to be available to conduct hand fastings in multiple states, or as opposed to just one. So look into that depending upon what's needed for the situation. And yes, I know all of this, it's a bunch of waste paper. It's just about separating you and anyone else who decides to officiate from their money. And the only people it makes happy are fidgety bureaucrats who have nothing to do with the situation. But here we are. It's necessary in order to perform the task. So while it is irritating, and I don't like it, and I should like to see some reform in that regard, until that day comes into being, we have to deal with the regulations that we have to deal with. Although if you want to write some sternly worded letters to state officials, I won't be the person to discourage you. So, and now for our homework for June 14th through June 20th. Number one, choose a rite of passage that you do not currently have a ritual prepared for and write one. Just see what you can come up with. You don't have to keep it if you don't like it. You can always edit it later, but just have something. And then number two, in your own life, was there a time when you would have liked to really acknowledge an important moment, this rite of passage, but it didn't happen? And how did that make you feel? And the reason I'm asking you to think about this is that so that you might also contemplate how other people might feel it, and who could have experienced something similar, or what it really means to them to be able to have this more pagan ceremony to mark this important time. Remembering what you missed out on, it helps you treat someone else's big day with reverence and respect, and giving it the importance it really deserves. And then number three, Do you think people would be better off if we had common customs for rites of passage? And I'm not just talking about in the pagan sphere, but if there was just a general acknowledgement that, we need to have some kind of due to mark these times because it's important, because this is our significant transitions in people's lives. Just look at it from that really broad angle and see what you think. See what you think. But that is what I have for you this week. Next week, we will be discussing building your tribe because as we are winding down the Wicca teaching series, you might be starting to feel inclined to, maybe you want to gather with each other for ritual and worship or just for simple companionship. And the whether twos and why fours of building up your own tribe going to be pretty significant, especially as time goes on. So we'll talk all about that next week. In the meantime, questions, comments, concerns, complaints, leave them for me in the comments section below. Or if you have a more in-depth concern, you might email me at brigantia.blackbird@protonmail.com and we can get into the more nitty-gritty there. But that'll do it for now, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye.